You're probably wondering about why a university would even worry about scheduling Quintiq and all that type of stuff, and how it relates to you all. Okay, that's one of the things, listening to people talk during dinner last night, breakfast, lunch, and everything else, I'm hearing that as an overall trend, and I'm been listening to the conversations that you've all had. It's very interesting because we have had many problems with our scheduling because we have roughly 2,000 plus faculty. They come and go. We have full-time faculty, we have part-time faculty, we have 1,800 different courses. We are on a cycle where we offer the courses in 8-week and 16-week intervals. They start every month. So I know we have Amtrak and we have Caribbean Cruise and we have other FFA, we have other people out here who have workforce management issues, okay, or problems they have to solve. And with us, when we first went we used to do manual scheduling where all the departments, basically all your cities, all your ships, that kind of stuff, would do their own scheduling. And when they did that, they all had their own policies, they all had their own rules, and they all violated all kinds of rules that they didn't understand, okay? So we ended up years ago trying to go to a comprehensive shop, one scheduling shop that did this. And the problem with it was all these directors, all these different schools said, well, this is my policy. This is my policy. Okay, you can equate it to unions, you can equate it to whatever you want. They all had their own stake in it, and they didn't want anything. When it first started, before we brought this online, I was one of those department chairs. And when they said years before, we're going to do automatic scheduling, I sat there and said, it's not going to work, period. I was the biggest skeptic in the room. Well, not the biggest, but I was among the biggest skeptics in the room, okay? And what was so great about it was I knew it wasn't going to work, okay? I was 100% positive. So it came time for, the new year came around, and our provost came up to me and said, Brian, this is like a year later. She said, Brian, how would you like a different job at the university? Instead of managing the history in the military history program, which is what I did, and I knew all that stuff, how would you like to develop the scheduling system for the university? Talk about coming out of left field, okay, totally out of left field. And being a skeptic, I was like, yeah, right. My first question was to her, Karen, what if it fails? Okay, am I responsible for it? She goes, no, you're not going to be responsible for it if it fails. So I'm like, okay, I'm cool with this, okay? Now talk about a few other things, okay, which they did, and I eventually agreed. Then we talked to a couple of vendors, and the couple of vendors, they came, and it was like, once they saw our scope, and once we told them what we wanted, they were like, yeah, we wasted your time, we'll see ya. And they left, okay? Because they never took the time to get to know us. Quintiq, on the other hand, when they came, they spent a day talking to us ahead of time. Sarah came, Chris Riaz came, Mark came, and they sat there and talked to us. And the next day when they presented to us a solution potential from what they heard, we were like, wow. I mean, there was a round of applause afterwards for them, okay, because we thought they could do what we wanted. And that was the interesting part, because again, I was a skeptic. So you can see what the idea was, we have a lot of variables, and we have so many variables, and you can see by looking at them that there's enough variables in there that we thought what was going to happen was we know what we need initially. This is what we think we want. And then Quintiq sat down with us and said, okay, let's look at these variables. Are they variables that you really need? Do they mean anything or not? Are they hard variables? Do they have a hard limit? Do they have a soft limit? Do you want it so you can change them over time? Do you want them so that they have to be controlled at this level, or do you want this level of control? Okay, we had 50 people doing this job, the scheduling job, and each of them spent about 25% of their time. So 50 people, 25% of the time, do the math, 12.5 people. okay, or some other number since I'm not great at math. But nevertheless, 12.5 is good. Okay, we took it from 12.5 down to 3 people. Okay, the other 50 people are still doing their job. But at the university, what their job is managing the curriculum, making sure the classes are good for the students. Okay, so by taking the scheduling off their plates, we allow them to do their job efficiently. And we went ahead and did ours. Okay, we already talked about the changing faculty base. We have faculty that come and go. Most of them stay, but you're always going to have faculty that leave. Period. You're going to. Okay, employees. You're going to have employees that work for you, and then some employees that decide to get a job offer someplace else. We had an employee leave and go to Harvard. He's a chair at Harvard now. Okay, not a chair, I'm sorry. He's a vice president at Harvard. Okay, we have other employees that went to Penn and stuff like that. You can't predict employee turnaround. Okay, we have to hire people on them. We have vacations. All of our full-time employees get vacations, the faculties. So we have to throw those into it. They don't get a week vacation. They're off for an entire month. They're not allowed to teach for a month, so they cannot teach the month prior to that either. We have, so we have to go over all those different things and take that all into account, which is very difficult because, as I mentioned in the beginning, our courses are set up so that with the 1,800 courses roughly, that every course is either offered once every 3 months, once every other month, or every month. And we have a policy at the university that once we offer a course, we will not turn a student away. So if it's a Math 110, one of our math courses, we may have what we think a need for 5 sections, 5 instructors. It turns around, for some reason, something kicks in their mind, and all of a sudden, we have a need for 10 instructors that month. How do we balance that? How do we optimize it so those people can teach? So we have to create a rolling schedule, okay? And that's what I've heard from the FAA, okay, Amtrak, okay, Caribbean Cruise. You have to have a schedule made for your employees. Who can be on what ship? What are their qualifications? Okay, with Amtrak, you have to know, all the different rules of the engineers, of the different people who are taking care of your trains. FAA, you have people who are probably qualified differently also, that, different unions and all this type of stuff. You have to be able to meet all these demands and stuff. So we have a long-term schedule we create, and it's based on predicted demand. Okay, that's important. Okay, and Quintiq allows us to look at the demand in the past and assess what the demand is going to be in the future. And we have different ways of doing that. We didn't stick with one method. We talked to Quintiq, and they devised 5 different methods for us to do predictions. Because it changes. Your environment changes. With us, because the government last year having some shutdowns and stuff like that, students could not enroll in as much. So we had to modify our stuff just a little bit that month. We have to offer the schedule to the students 6 months out. So every month we release another month out. So we're always moving out 6 months. And the task orders are something the faculty receive. It's just like you asking an employee, okay, are you willing to be on this cruise? And they say yes. It's a commitment, okay? So we release the task orders. And then we have to sit there at the end, right before the course starts, and we have to say, okay, we have this many courses, 12 courses in Math 110, for example. Let's go ahead now, and are the students equally distributed? Are the full-time people, are they meeting their ceiling for that course, not that course, but for their workload for that month? Because you're paying them by, the year. You never want to take a full-time employee and underutilize them. It's a bad thing, okay? And the part-time faculty, we have part-time faculty who do not work just for our university, but work for other universities, or they have full-time jobs. You cannot overwork them, because then they do not do as well in the classroom, or they get frustrated and everything else. So you have to balance between that, and more importantly, you have the stakeholders. Who's our stakeholders? Okay, we're a for-profit. That's not our stakeholders, in my opinion. Our stakeholders are the students. Okay, so we have to go ahead and make sure that we have that. So we'll release a task order for a new session 6 months out. We'll do the load balancing, and then classes have to be set up. Now the thing is, if a class isn't set up in time, what we have to do in that case, if a class isn't set up in time, then we have to find another instructor. How do we do that? It used to be the program director would pick up the phone, call someone up, can you teach this class? Yeah, I can teach it, not a problem. And that'd be it. That's not the optimal way of doing it, because people have their favorite people. They have their go-to people. Pretty soon, because they only teach so many in a year, that person can no longer teach. They've reached their maximum amount of time. Okay, so this picks the best person for who can teach the course. Okay, we have to maximize the employee utilization, which I just stated, balancing the students, courses, sections taught over the entire calendar year. So you just can't sit there and say, this is how many people I need this month, because you may not, if you use them all in the first quarter, and they only can teach so many because they have a ceiling, who's going to teach the courses in the fall of the year? So it has to balance the whole thing out. We have the algorithm. Oh my gosh, talk about an algorithm. That was unique. I can tell you that much right now. Chris Riaz sat with us, and we thought we knew what we wanted. And we told him, Chris works for Quintiq, if you don't know. We told him what we thought we wanted, and he came back and said, okay, you don't want this, you don't want this, you want this, you want this, you want this, everything else. And we said, okay, we want them in this order. And we had to devise a weight system. Well, so this is the most important, so it needs to be the highest. And this is the second most important. And then we realized that wasn't the case. Chris walked us through and said, this is something you really want. So we have to weigh it between 1 and 100. How much do you really want? We want it to be 35%. Okay? Something else that we didn't care so much about, we wanted to be 6%. But then we find out a year later, a month later, however long later, yeah, that didn't work out quite right. These weights and stuff had to be adjusted. So we worked with Chris, and we adjusted things as we were forming the program. Okay, this is when we were all doing the testing and everything else. Because the yearly load is important. And the performance indicator, the predicted section variance, that is something that we also look at. Okay, again, stakeholder experience. The last thing you want to do is have 12 Math 110 courses we have an average enrollment of 25 students in class. Now, because of Quintiq, in the past, we used to put 25 students in a class online, okay? But students, most of us were students at one point. I think all of us were students at one point in college. You sign up for a class, it sounds like a great class. You go in there and you're like, this isn't what I thought. Okay, financial aid didn't come through, whatever. So we have students that we know are going to drop, but we don't know who they are. So Quintiq goes ahead and identifies, based on trend analysis, how many students you're going to have in a section after our drops, rates, and everything. So we take that all into account. So we have to balance them across the board, because you don't want a section to have too many. Even though we say 25 students, we'll put 30 students in the class because we know a certain percent will drop. Or we'll put 28 in, or whatever the case may be. Okay? But you don't want to have a class with only 4 students in it. We're online. Okay, you come into it, a nightmare for some people is coming into a conference room and it's like this, and it's full of people. Okay? Another nightmare is you're an instructor, you come to a conference room, there's one person sitting in that chair right there. Are you really having a conference, or are you having a dialogue with that one person? Okay, so we want classes that are the right size. We have to look at the priority of section display. Okay? We have it set up so that it's like an airport, I guess you could say. We have it set up so it shows the different planes taken off at the different time, but it shows like who the instructors are. So they get some pick of who the instructors are for some courses. Other courses, we don't really want them to have a say because we may change them around anyways. So we have that flexibility. The visibility into future trends and environment, we already talked that somewhat. Okay, the ability to really predict out there how many students you're going to have in the future. And I think that's the hardest thing, because there are some cases where we've gone ahead and we're creating new courses. We're a university. We don't sit there and keep the same courses all the time. It's like you add a new route, to Amtrak, the cruise, okay? You add a new port, okay? When you do those things, you have to take that kind of stuff into accountability. And that's one of the things we have to do, because when you add a new course, you have zero clue how many people are going to want to take that course. If you add a new port, you did estimates. You have a clue how many people are going to want to go to that port. A new station for Amtrak. You have a clue how many people may want to go to Cleveland. Okay, probably not that many. I'm from Ohio, so I can say that. Okay, but at least you have a clue of how many people are going to go to those places. If you have something new, you don't know. And because you don't know, you have to do prediction. And you have to have the faculty to teach the courses. Okay, we have limits. Yeah, future coverage, future workloads. We have limits where a faculty member can only teach 10 unique courses in a year, period. And they can teach the same course 5 times, and then the other 9 courses 1 time each or whatever, but they can only teach them 10. They're qualifications. Okay, and the qualifications, if you add a new course and your faculty member has already taught 10 unique courses, and you add a new course in September, and he's the only or she's the only person that can teach it, but he's already taught his 10 courses for the year, you have a problem. Okay, you have to figure a solution out. You have to go to the provost to get special permissions. So we have to analyze. We try not to schedule people for 10 courses. You also don't want to overburden our faculty member with the same courses all the time. Think about it. Teaching Econ 101 every month for the all year round, that would just kill me completely. Okay, I am not anything to do with IT, nothing like that at all. All that kind of stuff it'd be terrible for me. I teach Native American history, but we couldn't do that kind of stuff. So we have to take that all into account when we're building this. The fact that they're going to have new courses and they're going to have that kind of stuff. We have to work with the program directors, okay, who create the programs and create these new courses. We have to tell them the impact. You want to add this new course? That's great. Who's your instructors going to be? Okay, you say these people are going to be your instructors. Let's optimize this. Let's add the new course in. Let's optimize and see what happens. You have a problem. Okay, you do not have enough instructors to teach that course. So then you need to contact HR, and you need to put an ad out to hire more instructors to teach that course. Or in your case, more people to do the job. Okay? Back to the qualification part. Okay? Each faculty with those 10 courses, that's their qualifications. Okay? And it's in the system. We have, with 1,800 courses, every faculty member provides a central repository for scheduling information. Every faculty member has their list of up to 10 courses that they can teach. Okay? And if we want to take one off, it's easy. Click on it, delete, it's gone. But we can do that with the system. Policy prevents us from doing that in certain cases. If they haven't taught the course, great, we can do that. If they've taught the course, it stays on there. So we have to think about that kind of stuff. It limits the potential for human error. Oh my gosh. Under the old system, it was type the name in. It was so manual. It would be type the course in, and it would be a drop-down thing, and hopefully you clicked on the right one then. Then you type the faculty name in. What if we actually have people with the same name teaching courses, okay? And one person is qualified to teach math, and the other person is qualified to teach English. Under the old system, there was no differentiation between the two in the system, and our old system was manual. So when they have 2 people with the exact same name, if you hit the wrong person, the people when they accept the task orders, they don't look, they don't pay attention all the time. They say, oh yeah, I'm willing to take this job, it's money. Okay, just like with you all, your employees, yeah, I'm willing to take this cruise, I'm willing to work on this plane, I'm willing to work with, at this location at this time. And then they find out it's the wrong one. So we turned around, and with the individuals having the qualifications, it's impossible, totally 100% impossible for us to assign an instructor a course that they are not qualified to teach. And right now we only have one qualification. We have the 10 courses, but that's one field, but we could add more qualifications. Okay, if we wanted to do something like a hybrid course, on ground and on site, we could add that as a qualification. If we wanted to do, say we're asynchronous, if we wanted to do synchronous courses, we could add that as a qualification and say, okay, these 10 professors who teach math can all teach all the online courses they want, but only 2 of them would be qualified for the on-ground course. We don't have the on-ground course, so I'm just thinking these things out here, or the synchronous. So if we wanted to have a schedule an on-ground course, and we click a professor to tell it to optimize, it would never pick the person who's not allowed to teach on ground. It'll always pick only the ones who can, because that's what you want. Okay, so is no, so it says the potential of human error. We do have overrides to everything because maybe that person went out and got qualified to do something. So we can always override things. That's the beauty about Quintiq also. We're not stuck in to their solution. We have to take into account human aspects. Our best practices, detailed in the change management plan. That was very critical for us because when like I said, I was skeptic, like I told you before, worst person or thereabouts. But getting a change management plan in place, getting the buy-off of, at a university, it's not the buy-off of one person, okay? Because the academics said, this sounds great, we like it. But then you have finance. How much is it going to cost? Okay, you have the president, same question. The board, as a for-profit, that kind of stuff. You also have to deal with IT. Can IT support it? What will IT do? And things like that. Think outside the box. That was so important for us because, again, I went in there running the history program. I knew the way to do it. Period. This is how the policy says. This is how you're going to run the program. This is how you're going to do your scheduling. Brian had no doubt in his mind how Brian was going to do the scheduling. Period. Nicole, on the other hand, and I have one other worker, Tammy, who's not here. They had never done it. Tammy was the one who got the email that said, schedule John Smith to teach History 101 in April. That was it. And she'd do the thing and hopefully not make a mistake. Okay? Thinking outside the box was hard, but wasn't just for us. It goes back to the change management also, is we had to get the program directors, the department chairs, the deans, all to understand this is the way to go. This is going to take workload off of you. And they were so skeptical. And we started with one small school, a couple small programs actually. And because we were skeptical too, gotta admit it, rolling something out for the first time, we were skeptical, I was. And we're like, is it gonna work or not? And the plan was, we're gonna roll it out with these couple programs, which only affect, 300 instructors, 10,000 students, something like that, small, okay? And we're gonna see how it works. We rolled it out the 1 month, and it worked beautiful. Yeah, beautiful maybe too high, a couple kinks here and there, but they were kinks not because of the system, but it was because of things that we did not think about. And we were then gonna roll it out then, after that, to that whole school, part of the university, 1/6, and then after that, roll it out month after month until 6 months later, we'd have the whole university. It worked so well the first time, we said, you know what? Let's not follow that plan. Let's roll out this whole school next and see how it works. School of Arts and Humanities, the biggest school in the university. It's all the rest of the schools equal that school in size. So we did it with that whole school, and it worked. So I was like, why are we waiting? Why are we making these people do this work? So we did it for the next month. The entire university went with Quintiq, okay? And it worked so well. And thinking outside the box is one of those things that a lot of people don't do because they have their mindset. The best thing about having Nicole and Tammy on the team, and I'm not saying this in any direct negative way whatsoever, but they didn't do scheduling before, okay? So they had no box to think out of. Okay, so they learned to do it as we went along, and it really helped a lot. But for the program directors, they had to accept outside the box. Thinking outside the box was more of the provost and the senior people along that lines. We released the whole thing, like I said, that was in March 2013, April 2013. For the last year, for the first year ever, the full-time faculty met their workloads, okay? Part-time faculty did not exceed their workloads. This year we're on target for the same exact thing without problems. We don't have teachers teaching the wrong courses. We don't have people being overworked, underemployed, okay? Misemployed, okay, teaching the wrong things. We don't have that now. But we had to have realistic timelines and expectations. Okay, Quintiq took a while for us to build, okay? It wasn't you can come in, Quintiq, come, help us, solve it. Thank you, we're gonna go now, be done. It took time, we had to work with Quintiq over months and everything else, but they understood what we wanted. Even though, I mean, one of the comments from the provost after Sarah Guilford walked out when she briefed, and the provost was like, she knows us. She understands us. She was talking our words, which was so impressive, for only coming in that one day and knowing it. So having them understand, and they brought so much to it. When we sat down and talked with Chris, he brought so much of his previous knowledge on all the other things that he did with all the other industries that applied to education. I would have never believed that trucks and trains and metal and fluids, all that kind of stuff, has any impact at all on scheduling. It does, because of the algorithms behind it all. But that's where Quintiq brings their broad base of knowledge in to help us with the scheduling. Empower the project team. That was where they had to go, and literally, Karen, our provost, was hands off. Okay, she was like, Brian, it's yours, go with it, and everything else. And they were pretty much hand off the entire time. Got it. So that was really a big benefit, because it allowed us, and we'd go back to them every now and then and say, this is where we're at, and they'll, got it, good, keep going, let me know if you have any problems, that type of stuff. On the horizon, preferences for recurring time periods when faculty wish not to teach. There are times where we have people, and right now, we built this, in 2012, where we have faculty, who do not want to teach at certain months. You have people on the cruise, on the planes, FFA. You have people on vacation as well, okay? You want to be able to block this time off when they cannot work, cannot go where we want them to go, and stuff like that. We built that in, but we want to adapt it a little bit further. We want to, do a little bit more than what we have. Course leads. We have something called course leads. I mentioned earlier that 100-point scale, where things were weighted 35 points, whatever points. The one thing that we weighted really low was course lead, 7%. We gave it a 7%. Well, since the algorithm is cumulative, if something higher, like something that's 35%, is one of the rules, and you have something that's 7%, and you got to break one of the two, which one you're going to break? You're going to break the 7% one, because you don't face as much penalty. So that is something that we're developing. So the course leads, we're going to change so they can. If you're a course lead, you have to teach it so many times a year, okay, type of thing. More flexible schedule type of courses. I mentioned about the synchronous, the blended and stuff like that. We don't know if we're ever going to go down that road, but if we do, we want the software to be able to be there for us. Because the worst thing to have happen is for the provost or someone or the president, CEO, and all of them to get together and say, we're going to do this. And then we sit there and go, that's great. We can help you in 2 years. So we're trying to do predictive analysis of what this stuff would look like, and then build it for them in advance. And we're going to be working hopefully with Quintiq in the near future to do that.